Donald Trump raged after Jasmine Crockett absolutely destroyed Melania live. On the congressional record, what triggered the meltdown? A brutal exposing on Trump's immigration hypocrisy that dragged the First Lady into the spotlight, and Crockett didn't hold back, because right from the jump, she made it clear the GOP's fear-mongering doesn't line up with reality.
It's interesting that we're being accused of wanting all kinds of criminals to be on the streets, or that we don't believe that people should show up to their meetings and appointments. Last time I checked, there's a lot of people that are actually being grabbed as they are going in for their appointments. In fact, we know that one of the candidates that was recently running in this mayoral, he ended up being arrested because he decided that he was actually going to escort people that are actually showing up to their meetings. Or we know that the Pope, yes, the Pope himself, decided that the church may need to have people that are going to escort people as they're going into their meetings. Because the reality is that what they are claiming what they want to do versus what they're actually doing, the actions don't match up. And while we are supposed to be talking about visas, somehow we continue to cherry pick and talk about one criminal act and another criminal act. And it is so very interesting to me that, yes, we will say people are xenophobic, because when you start to decide that just because somebody came from another country, they are automatically some kind of criminal, that does sound kind of xenophobic to me, because you are using a paintbrush to paint an entire group of people where the vast majority of them are coming here because they are actually seeking a better life. But let me get to what this hearing is supposed to be about.
Jasmine Crockett just went full mic drop on the hypocrisy Olympics. And let's just say, the scoreboard's not looking great for the GOP. She calls out the right for whining about criminals on the streets, while ICE is out here snatching people on their way to check in. Yes, attending their legal appointments. Meanwhile, she drops the wild fact that even the Pope had to step in, suggesting people need escorts just to avoid getting ambushed en route to immigration meetings. And oh, the kicker? Labeling entire groups of immigrants as criminals? That's not border security. That's textbook xenophobia. And now, Crockett's turning her attention to Melania Trump. Buckle up.
The idea that Trump and my Republican colleagues want to restore integrity and security in the visa process is actually a joke. Let me be clear. Integrity is not snatching lawful visa holders off the streets and throwing them into unmarked vans. Integrity is not revoking visas based on social media posts that hurt somebody's little feelings because kids decide that they want to go after Trump or this administration. We have a thing called free speech in this country. And since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
Jasmine Crockett just torched the GOP's visa integrity fairy tale and brought a flamethrower with receipts. She clowned the idea that tossing visa holders into unmarked vans is somehow about security. And let's not forget the tragic trauma of hurt feelings from social media posts. Because nothing says democracy like silencing teenagers on TikTok. But then, boom, she zeroes in on Melania Trump and her Einstein visa. You know, the one meant for Nobel winners and Olympic champions, not catalog models with a suspiciously flexible resume. Crockett's just getting started, and trust me, she's not done yet.
Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing with this reconciliation process, the travel bans and revoking visas, jeopardizes our national security. It threatens our communities, our higher education, and our economy. Visas like the largely vetted J visas for higher education and M visas for trade, training, attract the next innovators, medical providers, researchers, and educators that we need to build on American success. I'm not gonna mess up your name, so I'm not doing that. But I'm with you, okay? In your experience, do individuals on J or M visas typically improve or impair our economy?
They generally improve the economy, and I can give a brief example. My wife is a very successful woman. She makes a ton of money, which I'm grateful for. And the reason why we're able to do that while having 3 children is because of the au pair visa, somebody who is here on a J. Okay. Who is here and able to supply this for us. But I also want to defend Melania real quick. Not everybody could marry Donald Trump, and I think that's quite an achievement. So I think she deserves credit for that. Nobody up here could have done it.
You sure right, I couldn't do it.
Crockett just laid out the receipts. And surprise, it's the GOP's visa crackdowns that are actually putting America at risk. She highlights how slashing J&M visas doesn't just hurt immigrants. It tanks our economy, wrecks innovation, and drives out the doctors and educators we literally need to function. Then things take a hilariously awkward turn as Mr. Norese tries to defend Melania's Einstein visa by saying marrying Trump is an achievement? Honestly, if that's her greatest talent, maybe the visa should have been called the Survival Olympics. But Jasmine's not done. Next, she drops some truth bombs.
But anyway, in fact, J visa holders contribute $43.8 billion to the U.S. economy and support more than 300,000 jobs. And make no mistake, immigrants improve the health of U.S. citizens too. Despite the fact we already have a doctor shortage, Trump's reckless travel ban and visa overhaul are exacerbating this crisis by impairing hundreds of hospitals with foreign-trained doctors set to do their residencies here in the United States, meaning fewer people will get the help they need and more people will die. Now, let me remind you that Republicans are trying to gut Medicaid. Roughly 4.5 million people receive caregiver services through Medicaid, and most of these folks are in red states. And wouldn't you know that in 2023, Kaiser Family Foundation estimated that almost 30% of long-term care providers or home caretakers were immigrants. It's like Republicans want Americans to suffer. Now, Republicans say visas make us less secure, but let's talk about how visas given to victims of crimes like rape, murder, human trafficking, torture, abduction, kidnapping, to help law enforcement with their investigation or prosecutions of these crimes. These folks are risking their own security for broader safety of Americans and our communities.
Jasmine Crockett bringing Melania into the immigration debate to expose Trump's absurd visa policies. Absolute chef's kiss. It's the perfect mix of savage and strategic. And let's be real, it hit the Trump ego like a tactical nuke. You knew it would rattle him, but not enough to spark a full-blown meltdown on Truth Social? Oh, but it did. And this one, it's a doozy. Because while Jasmine's spitting facts about immigrant doctors, Medicaid, and U visas helping law enforcement, Trump's over here frothing about his wife's resume. Here comes the meltdown.
Trump wrote on Truth Social, "I have an idea for the Democrats to bring them back into play after years of being left out in the cold, including suffering one of the greatest losses in history, the 2024 presidential election. The Democrats should nominate low IQ candidate Jasmine Crockett for president, and AOC +3 should be respectively vice president, and 3 high-level members of the cabinet, added together with our future communist mayor of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, and our country is really screwed."
Trump just rage posted the political equivalent of a dream, nominating Jasmine Crockett for president, AOC for VP, and tossing in Zoran for mayor like it's the Avengers reboot. And honestly, we love this lineup. President Crockett, sign us up. AOC in the West Wing, say less. Zoran running NYC with transit and childcare. The horror! Trump's out here melting down over communist mayors, while the rest of us are wondering what he's on. Let him keep cooking, because every post just proves how terrified he is of actual progress. Meanwhile, Jamie Raskin, he's not letting ICE off the hook either.
So it's good for us to be having the first immigration hearing in memory, not on enforcement tactics at the border or in our communities, but instead about visas. Alas, the president's record on visas is riddled with the same bursts of extremism and dogmatism and fanaticism that have made his enforcement measures so unpopular. He and his administration have tortured our laws and trampled our Constitution to kick out permanent resident green card holders and students and target universities who voice opinions that he disapproves of. As part of its effort to undertake a hostile takeover of America's colleges and universities, the administration interrupted interviews for student and exchange visitor visas. The result, about 15% of foreign doctors slated to begin their work at American teaching hospitals around the country were unable to get their visas in time to start the medical year next month. all at a time when we have a serious doctor shortage in the country that threatens access to care. And the monstrous reconciliation bill threatens to slash Medicaid funding on which rural hospitals rely. The administration has also recently implemented its xenophobic travel ban to unilaterally ban entrance to the country for all nationals of 19 different countries, with minor exceptions. Categorically denying visas to nationals of these countries does not make us safer or freer or more prosperous. It cements us in the eyes of the world as a vindictive, isolationist, and increasingly undependable and authoritarian country. The travel ban will likely have significant economic consequences by restricting travel and migration from the targeted nations. In 2022, at least 298,000 non-citizens from countries affected by the new travel ban arrived in the U.S. Most of them came to the U.S. temporarily, spending money as tourists or as students, fueling our economy. The following year, households with nationals from the targeted countries collectively earned $3.2 billion in income, paid $715 million in federal, state, and local taxes, and held $2.5 billion in spending power.
Jamie Raskin just dropped a clinic on how Trump's visa policies are basically a guided missile aimed at America's economy, healthcare, and constitutional sanity. Instead of focusing on actual border solutions, Trump's team is busy launching a hostile takeover of universities and blocking doctors from entering the country during a healthcare shortage. Brilliant strategy if your goal is total collapse. And that infamous travel ban, it doesn't keep us safe. It just makes America look like the bitter ex no one wants to invite to the global table. Raskin isn't holding back, and these truth bombs are landing hard.
Donald Trump also paused the refugee program, claiming the entry of these thoroughly vetted and re-vetted individuals would be detrimental to the United States. But then he allowed white Afrikaners to apply via a Google form and to undergo an expedited process to come to the U.S. as refugees. And it should shock no one to learn that after they arrived, reporters were able to dig up numerous anti-Semitic posts from the refugees. One of them had never been subjected, apparently, to the new anti-Semitism screen being used for other visa candidates. The title of this hearing is Restoring Integrity and Security to the Visa Process. How does any of this restore integrity or security? These random pauses, arbitrary bans, ad hoc detentions do nothing to improve security or integrity in our process. President Trump has turned our visa system into a terrain of caprice and selective punishment he can wield against his chosen political enemies and use to demonize and scapegoat immigrants, including visa recipients.
Jamie Raskin just exposed the absolute circus that was Trump's refugee policy, where compassion was paused unless you were a white Afrikaner with a Google form and a MAGA-friendly backstory. While thoroughly vetted refugees were locked out, Trump rolled out the red carpet for people who, surprise, had anti-Semitic social media histories. Some even skipped the new anti-Semitism screening entirely. Integrity, security, Trump's visa system was basically a political weapon, arbitrary, biased, and tailor-made to punish his enemies while boosting his narrative. And now, Jamie Raskin is absolutely tearing the whole scam wide open.
Foreign immigrants is designed to distract us from the fact that they're trying to cut 14 million Americans off of Medicaid, destroying small businesses with chaotic and unlawful tariff policies, gutting federal agencies and programs charged with protecting Americans against scams and frauds, and using the pardon power to transfer more than $1 billion from the victims of crime to the perpetrators of crime. Sometimes the president's had his lucid moments on immigration. During his first term, while saying he wanted to build a big, beautiful wall, he said the wall would have a big, very beautiful door, signifying his support for legal immigration. In brief, lucid moments like these, I try to find hope that we can work together across the aisle to focus on a secure border, the removal of immigrants convicted of serious crimes and public safety threats, a pathway to citizenship for the law-abiding, tax-paying, undocumented immigrants who Trump recently called very good long-time workers, and a modernized immigration system that will make it easier to come here lawfully while protecting American workers. We've come very close to doing this in the past. We can do it again. Tom Paine, who arrived in the country in 1774, fell in love with America when he got here. He said this land will become an asylum to humanity. Not an insane asylum, mind you, but a place of refuge for people seeking freedom from religious and political and economic persecution and discrimination from all over the world. So let's live up to the original vision of the founders. This is a nation made up of immigrants and the descendants of people who were enslaved and of the original Native Americans. But this is a land of immigration, a land of immigrants, and a land of laws. We can make it all fit together, and I hope we can work together on a bipartisan basis to make that happen.
Jamie Raskin just connected every chaotic thread of Trump's immigration theater and pulled the whole thing apart. While Trump screams about immigrants at rallies, behind the scenes, his team was slashing Medicaid for 14 million Americans, tanking small businesses with tariff tantrums, and even using the pardon power to move over $1 billion from crime victims to the criminals themselves. You can't make this up, and yet in one of those rare lucid Trump moments, he mumbled something about a beautiful door in his wall, as if that one metaphor could patch up years of damage, cruelty, and political fear-mongering. Raskin isn't just calling out hypocrisy, he's reminding us what this country should stand for: a land of laws, a land of immigrants, and yes, a land of hope. Oh, and if this takedown hit the spot, you know what to do. Hit like, smash that subscribe button, and keep riding with us, because what Trump does next, you're not ready.